Welcome to the Hustler's Manifesto podcast. We jailbreak from toxic hustle culture. We take hustler back from the belief that bigger is better, security is contingent on compliance, and freedom is reserved for the powerful. I'm your host, Sarah Duran. I'm not here to tell you how to make a quick buck. I'm here to change the way work is done so we can live more meaningful lives right now instead of betting on an uncertain future. If you value this content, please rate it and comment on this podcast wherever you get it. Thanks for being part of the movement. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, Sarah.
How are
Great
you?
to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here.
Me too.
So how long ago was it that I was on your podcast? 4 months, 6 months? I can't even remember how long.
Yeah. It's been quite a while, but we've kept in touch. So
Yes.
I don't really feel like we're far.
I don't either. Feel like you can tell from that podcast episode that we were like, oh yeah, we like each other. We're going to keep in touch. So I was thrilled to be able to bring you onto my podcast, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Let's start off with these 3 questions that I ask everyone, and I sort of just always clump them together because the answer to each question sort of bleeds across the other questions. So the 3 questions that we'll start off with are: who are you? What do you do? What is your work? And why do you do it?
Awesome. Thanks. Whenever someone asks me like, who are you? I get this crisis immediately just by asking like, who am I? You know, especially like when it comes to the work that I do. But to start off with, here, I'm Shiela Pialago. You can call me Sheila. I mean, everyone calls me Sheila at work. They try to call me in different names because I have 2 names. It's like Sheila May, but then they say Sheila Marie, Sheila. They just like ruin the second name. So I've learned to cut it off, and I just said, just call me Sheila. It's all good. So I'm Sheila. I'm from the Philippines. I've been a VA for about 8 years now. And my specialty are usually, it's a funny story because this inclination that I had when I wanted to be a healthcare professional earlier before I started working, and financially we couldn't do it. So I think I like to sort it bled out in my career now as a VA because I started out as a VA, as a SEO content writer for healthcare companies. And I don't know why my managers at the time, they kept sending me different stuff, like for accountancy, for general services, all the other industries. But they saw that my writing was really stellar in the healthcare industry. And it kind of like snowballed from there. So I received healthcare articles. I got into healthcare related companies, whether it's alternative or, they call it, what do you call it? Sorry. There's another term, they're primary care and
Okay.
alternative medicine and all that stuff. So I just went from all this and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, I started off as a teacher, actually. Sorry if I may backtrack a little bit. So I started off as an English teacher, and then I lost my voice due to chronic laryngitis for using my voice too much after 8 months in teaching. And I told myself, geez, what work can I do that doesn't require voice? And my second passion was writing. And that's where my SEO content writing journey started. At the time, there was no such word as SEO. Like I had no clue, like 10 years back, no SEO. They just said, put these keywords into these blogs. And I think that at the time it was called keyword stuffing, which is not applicable now. So I kind of snowballed into it really. And then when I learned about SEO content writing, that kind of like opened my world to digital marketing. Like, oh, there's so many opportunities that I can explore. So from there, I ventured out to doing courses in graphic design, in SEO, in deep diving into SEO, deep diving into social media. And of course, in social media, there are like it's a rabbit hole, like social media platforms that you have to understand. And I guess I kept doing. Right now, I'm currently marketing. I'm a marketing project manager for a company, Thrive Academy. They're huge. They've been in the industry of teaching coaches for about 20 years now. So being part of this big organization has been a whirlwind. Like I could say, I just to sit every day virtually with a seven-figure CEO is just like really exhilarating to keep up with her thinking process and all. I think that's why um, right now being in I guess I've moved from healthcare to education. So I think that those things kind of like mix with each other very well or go hand in hand sometimes virtually. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like just being with these people, having these great ideas. Oh, what if this? Because in marketing, it's always, you know, trial and error. You don't know what could work today or what could work tomorrow. And I think I'd like to point out AI here. Like I think just made my work extra more intense because it really leveled up the game when it comes to marketing. How do you, yes, you can use AI as tools, but at the same time, people have become more perceptive. They've become more sensitive to like clickbait
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So I think that's so far that's been a very, very, very interesting journey right now.
Totally. I want to let's talk more about the AI stuff. But before we
I
go
love
there, I also just want to
mm-hmm.
ask, like, tell us
Sure.
why, like, you sort of walked through the journey of like how you got here. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
why you made the decision to, like, besides having to do something that you didn't have to use your voice all the time. How did you make the decision to work for yourself?
Oh yeah. I was lucky at the time. So I got that diagnosis, right? And of course, I think as a breadwinner, I was also at the point where I'm like, should I keep working like 9 to 5? I know the stress. And I felt already, I think halfway through, I enjoyed teaching. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed teaching children and all that. But I felt like I wanted to do my parents actually gave me this 1 month window. They call it a gap year, but in Asia we just have this. I was lucky to have a month gap, a gap month. So they were like say, you know what, try to figure yourself out. My mom specifically, she was very she sat me down and said, we'll give don't worry about finances for like a month and think of what you want to do for the next 10 years of your life or even 20 years, like something that you would really enjoy. Because I think that's their frustration when they were younger. Like my dad and my mom were not able to really do what they actually want to do. Like for example, my mom wanted to be in the events industry, but she stayed as in the I don't know, it was a private company, a water private company. And my dad too is in the water in this department. And my dad wanted to be a lawyer. So I think they really wanted me early on, even if we're financially incapable at that time. They said one thing that we would really like you to do is to find something you would love to do. And I said, okay. And this is what I tell the VAs also that I work with, or people who also reach out to me, like, how do I start to be a VA? It's like, you really have to find something you would like to do, like really happy to do, because working for yourself, working independently, working remotely takes a lot of effort, let's
Mhm.
say mental effort, and just to like motivating yourself. And if you don't like the work that you're going to do, that's like 10x, 10x work for you. That's the stress, the physical stress will come and all that stuff. So I think going back, I had that month, the gap month, where I thought, okay, my next best thing that I don't have to use my voice for is writing. And writing for me, ever since I was young, it was very, my mom always says, you can write in your sleep. You enjoy writing so much. So why don't you start there? So I was like, I wasn't really confident. I thought writing for fun. And then I started out to look for opportunities online, and then I had this a few of my colleagues who were already in the writing business. They said, "Hey, we're looking for content writers. Do you want to join in?" And that's where I said, "Okay." And I was able to write like 6 articles a day wonderfully, like no stress at all, especially it was in healthcare. So research and writing was like, oh, I could do this. I think I could do this. This is like, I was just playing when I'm writing. Like I could finish like 500 words or 750 words easily with enough reading, of course. Like I just read through a few blog articles and here and there. So that's one thing. And again, it snowballed from there. When I learned about SEO, and I was like, oh, shoot, this is actually a career. This is like people actually, I mean, clients actually need help on this one. Or like in social media, you need social media copywriting. You need, copy for, let's say, the back end of the blog articles, even those things, those technical things will take time. Will take time to understand. Will need dedication and commitment. But otherwise, I think it really roots from enjoying. Like I just enjoy writing. If you don't enjoy, for the listeners in this episode, if you're not, of course, I don't really expect you to enjoy writing. Like it's not everybody's cup of tea. But if, for example, if you write, if you enjoy, I have this one VA. He was having this imposter syndrome. Was like, I don't know if I'm good at graphic design, but he enjoys graphic design, and now he's earning 6 figures a month. And I just keep at it. You see, like it's because you're enjoying, you won't even notice that your bank account is like increasing. And he was very thankful that yeah.
I love that so much. I think that a lot of us, I think it comes from all different places. I think there are definitely some people who end up working for themselves because they're like, I want to love what I do. And there are some people that end up doing it because they're like, I want the flexibility, whatever that means for them. Some
Correct.
people do it because they want the money. And I think that the people that I see, like you said, I think the staying power, like the people who are like, working for yourself really works is when you find that you're super clear about what it gives you, whether it's like something. And I think the like doing something you love is like always part of that. And then you're like checking other boxes about like, it's like I get X number of dollars a month, or I have this type of flexibility and like where I work or how I work or who I work for. But I don't know if I think that's like a really powerful thing for your parents to have said that, because it's like you don't always go into it with that mindset. Sometimes you're going into it because you're just like, oh, I just need to find a job to pay the bills. You don't always get to frame it around like, I get to go pick something and do what I love.
Correct. And especially coming okay, I'm from the East, like Asian country, like think Asian, like parents. I'm sorry if I'm stereotyping. I don't mean to, but it's just reality that, Asian parents are always like, how much do you earn? And so there's always that pressure, especially like for the eldest children. Asian parents would like hear this and say, what? But yeah, they would agree to me that, we need to find, I mean, I'd be a hypocrite to say that we don't want money. I mean, it's how we survive, but it's, and sometimes from the Asian perspective of virtual assistants, when you tell us you can do what you love, it's almost alien to us. Like, no, that's not how it works here. We always have to find the job that, that pays more. And actually nowadays in 2023, you can actually do the job that you like, and it actually pays a lot too. And that's possible.
Yeah. I mean, that's living the dream, right? Like that's like the sweet spot where you're like, if you're like, I think what you said, like the snowballing, where it's like you find this thing that you like and you like start following that trail, and then eventually you're learning new things, you're picking up different things, you're gaining more confidence and authority in like what you're doing and how do you talk to people about it and who do you do it for, and then things sort of like start falling into place. with like sort of again like checking those different boxes. I'm curious. So you run a podcast called the Rockstar VA Podcast. And how did you like you're obviously like a VA, I don't think that everyone that runs a podcast also has like, a quote unquote day job. Most of us do if you run a small podcast like mine. But what is it like what made you passionate about starting that and being able to have those kinds of conversations about the world of the VA and speaking to some of the issues that you talk about on your podcast?
Awesome. I think I started helping out business owners do their own podcast since 2016. That's actually been something I've been doing. And in 2020, we were stuck at home. And I was starting to feel a bit like I want to talk. Like I still want to talk to people. I know I talk to my clients and all that stuff, but more and more people, I think that time, when the COVID started, everyone was asking, like, how can I find a job? How can I get a job online? They were scrambling. Like, I've never had that much messaging in my inbox in LinkedIn or on Instagram or on Facebook that much, that period of time. And I think that kind of like really inspired me to like push that podcast because I was a former teacher, like I mentioned. And I think I was like, okay, I have enough VA experience. I know usually, sorry, I usually know where to find my clients. And that's very important. I keep stressing them out that, there's so many things, but I know where to find my clients. I've never actually, thankfully, I've never run out of clients. I've never had any like gap where I don't work. So I have this confidence and I said, I can start a podcast. I've produced other people's podcasts. Why can't I? So with enough planning, it took me like about 3-4 months to plan the whole thing. It's like, am I ready? Everything, all this brainstorming, how can I go about it, the frequency and all that. Until now, I'm still experimenting on the frequency. I've been told to do one podcast a week. It's up to, do daily podcasts. And I'm like, that's insane. I cannot do a daily podcast for now, but I think I can do like a weekly podcast. So all that stuff in the background, I said, okay, let's push it on my 28th birthday. And I pushed it out on the same. So I don't forget the anniversary. I just launched it on the same day I was born. So that's where it all started. I think it's the people who actually reached out to me, family, friends who wanted a remote work, and I don't, not necessarily like, they don't ask me like, how do I, where do I get these clients? It's usually, how do I start? It's, beginning the starting steps for them often is very intimidating because it's change from real world to virtual. Like, how can it be different? Or usually the mindset from where I'm from, in Asia, is like, how do I put myself out there competing with everyone else in the world? Like, I know I've always been, it's so funny. This is a common conversation that I just want to quickly share. Is the common conversation among them is like, I'm just this. And I used to just compete with the people, let's say in Cebu, where I'm from. It's just very small island. Like, you could finish my island if you drive my island from north to south. You could finish it 3 to 4 hours tops. It's a very small island, and you usually think, oh, I'm just competing with people within this island. Now you're telling me to compete with the entire world? That's not right. That's not possible. And I just thought that easing them in, like leading the way, like, hey, if I could do it and not necessarily compete with all of them, but just to showcase yourself this way and be authentic this way, you can make it happen too. If I did it, you can. And I think that really, and I'm so glad, like I know my podcast is like, humble, like still humble at its, and anyway, it's 3 years old, but it's really just has stayed authentic when it comes to messaging. and all that stuff. And people come to me, VAs, either my age or even older than me, and then they just say, you know what, I found a client just by changing the messaging that
Mhm.
that I approach to them. And that to me is just like, oh wow, this is just like one tick to the box for me for the podcast. I just, yeah, that's been a really great.
I love it. Tell me what you think. What do you think is the biggest misperception that people have about VAs?
Ooh, so I think this is quite subjective in a way because I'm coming from the east side of things. And I don't know, maybe I have audience from all over the world, from Netherlands, from Germany, which is like, what? How are you relating to my messaging? But they do. They reach out to me and then all that stuff. But I think the main they're usually confused.
Okay.
Like, what do you actually do? Like, are you admin? Are you a marketing person? Are you a certified? Do you have a bachelor's degree in marketing? Do you all these things like still on a client's perspective, they're still some of them are still on the rocks when it comes to should I find or should I hire a VA for my business. But from the VA side of things, it's usually how do I present myself out there as a VA? For example, I've worked in the real world for 15 years, but now I'm shifting. I feel like I'm starting all over again. And I said, no, you don't have to. So there are these like the shift itself, the change is super uncomfortable for them. And I think it's just a matter of, marinating them into this virtual thing because the internet can be intimidating.
Mhm.
The internet can be, harsh. So I just, when it comes to my episodes, I usually address the things that are, I don't usually, if you notice, I don't usually answer the what and the where and the when. I usually answer way more deeper things like the why and the how. Because these things sometimes, like, I know it's not very practical sometimes. They think that why can't you just say, what are the online? Because these things you can find on Google.
Mhm.
If you ask Google, like, what are the websites to find online jobs, Google can give it all to you. But to give you why you can do it and how you can do it, starting your messaging, for example, the resume, shifting your resume to a VA's resume, that could completely like is a game changer. So all those things. I
I
hope I
love it.
answered your question.
No, it's perfect. I love that like and you started with this in the beginning about the like doing something that you love. And usually when I'm coaching people, freelancers, including VAs, I'm always starting with people about what do you want to be doing? What do you want? What do you want out of your business? What do you want? Like, what does your life need to get out of your business? And the why,
Mhm.
I think, is something that is super important because, and another one of those things that I think people don't always go into it thinking in the beginning, right? They always want to know the what, and they always want to
Yeah,
know the how. But if you're not really starting with like, well, why do you want to do this? What do you want to get out of it? Then all those other pieces don't actually like get you where you need to go, right?
for
Um,
sure.
and so I think that's super important framing for folks to think about whatever type of freelancing work you're thinking about. Um, one of the so let's circle back on the AI stuff because I know we wanted to touch on that a little bit more. Tell me about how I'm curious about how you've seen it if like interacting and affecting your work. And I'm also
Mhm.
curious about like what you've heard from your audience and the other folks that you're in your network about how it's impacting their work or even what their like perceived fears are about
Mhm.
AI.
Cool. I could like talk to you about this in like a series of episodes if I may, but in general, like how actually my husband asked me a few days back. I can start with that story where he's like, because he likes reading these news every now and then. And then he's like, you're a virtual assistant. You live in the virtual world. Are you scared of AI? Or how do you feel about AI? And I completely said, I'm actually not scared of it. Not because I don't, I know how it works and I know what else it can do. It's just how I see it from, at least from my perspective as a experienced VA, is that I know it can help me. I know it can support me in a lot of things like copywriting. It support me with graphics. It can help me optimize a lot of things that I tediously do, or my team members used to tediously do and work on days on end just to finish and craft a really good thing. And he's like, do you think it will replace you soon? You know, even, and I was confident to say, actually, no, it doesn't, because I think, I don't know, people might disagree with me on this one, but I think I told him that people who don't use AI, or people who use AI, will replace people who use it. And I learned that earlier on, when ChatGPT was like, starting to creep up. And I don't know why. I never actually, for example, with content writing, I spoke with a few content writers, and I asked them to integrate ChatGPT, for example, into their work. I think two of them got a little, like, let's say, off put that I am pro AI. And then two of them were like, sure, just give me the guidelines of what you want, or what the prompts that you'd want me to use. And I say, oh, wow. So this is like a classic example of how set B, the ones who actually use ChatGPT, will have more projects than the ones who don't, because the thought, like, you haven't even tried it yet. You haven't even let me finish that. You just need to integrate it, and I'll give you more projects. Actually, I can give you more projects, or this client can give you more projects, because she knows that you're working closely with ChatGPT. And that, although there's a perception of business owners that, oh, you can do this faster now because you have ChatGPT. But actually, again, it's setting the expectations to the client. Like, hey, for example, we're doing a medical article. We can produce this in 5 minutes. But again, it's text related for now. It's not very, it can shoot false things. And in the medical field, we need to be accurate. So we have to run this with a proof editor to fact check and cross checking, and that still takes time. And when we say fact checking, we need to align this to your business, the pricing and all that stuff. So it's really just a matter of messaging, or setting the expectations to the clients, like, hey, this is how we can use AI, and these are the limitations for now, and this is the time frame. And with that, it gives them that kind of like assurance that, okay, you're working closely with ChatGPT, you're using the tools that most people nowadays are using. I'm confident. So these two, like the set B content writers, got more of the projects. And then the set A, the ones who didn't, just left the workspace. So I'm like, yeah, that was a good example of how AI affected the work environment. But yeah, that's all so far I can think of. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think with all types of like disruptive innovations like that there's obviously like there's always going to be like ethical implications. There's always going to be workforce implications. There's always going to be like pros and cons. And so I'm not necessarily like, I guess I don't necessarily have like a very strong opinion about like pro AI versus anti AI. I think my opinion is always like, with innovation like that, you can be scared of it and like run away from it, or like pretend it's not there, or like try to work around it. And I think what you're saying is, which I totally agree with, is like, it's not going away. Like, you're going to have, if you want to pretend it's not there, and not use it in your business, then you're going to be behind the people that are. And so I think with all things like that, it's being able to adjust to change, because change is inevitable. It's always going to happen.
Right.
Things are always going to change. You
Yeah.
like, as a business owner, you should be able to always think about how to adjust and pivot, like constantly be thinking about how to adjust your business to the new market, to not just like the external factors of the market, but like some of the other things that we've been talking about already, about like when your life changes and like you need something different, you need more money, or you need more time, or you need more flexibility. Like, how do you have a business that's nimble enough to be able to adjust those things all the time? Because that's the only way that it's going to survive, right? Both internally and externally.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, I've been asked last time, what is your edge against AI? Like, ooh, that is strong. I don't know who asked me that question, but I guess I have this VA in the Philippines too, and she's like a nerd. It's like we geek about a lot of things when it comes to freelancing and clients. And she's a content writer, and she feels like 50-50 with AI. And she's like, what do you think would be your advantage against AI? And I was like, easy. Like, that is a very easy. It's communication. This is where you will ring best to your clients if you reach out to them, because AI will never reach out to them. At least not like how Alexa does. But these AI assistants, for example, they just wait a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
They wait a prompt. You're not a robot, so you reach out to your clients. You communicate to them. You give them updates, give them reports as much as possible. And they were like, she was like, "Yeah, you're right, correct." And I said, "Yeah, so don't worry. Like, it's really nothing to be scared of. It's just something you need to integrate yourself and make sure that you remain ethical at the end of the day when it comes to like workflows and all that."
Totally. Well, I think that's a great place to end us. I appreciate you so much, and I'm so glad that
Thank you.
I'm so glad that we could have this conversation. We will make sure to link to your podcast and anywhere else you want us to link to. And yeah, just thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.